She had 1.2 seconds, 31 feet of empty air between her and the basket, and an entire week of men on television telling the world she was already gone. And she put it through the net anyway. That's not a story about a basketball shot. That's a story about what happens when noise meets the one person in this sport who simply does not care about your noise. But before we get to Washington, before we get to that ball, leaving her hand from a distance most NBA players wouldn't even attempt in practice, you need to understand exactly what was being said about Caitlin Clark, who was saying it, and what every single word of it was built on. Because the answer to that last question is going to make you genuinely angry. 2 years ago, the Indiana Fever were invisible. Not controversial, not struggling in an interesting way, just quietly, completely invisible. Home games drew somewhere around 4,000 people. 4,000, in a building that holds over 17,000. You could hear the echo between possessions. Nobody outside of Indianapolis had a reason to think about this team, and most people inside Indianapolis weren't showing up either. The franchise was valued at $90 million. 90. For context, that's less than most single luxury apartment buildings in any major American city. Then they had the first pick in the 2024 draft, and they used it on her. What followed is one of the more staggering 2-year financial transformations in the history of professional sports. One player, on a rookie contract, walked through the door, and the Indiana Fever went from a $90 million franchise to a $560 million franchise. A $470 million increase. In 2 years, on a single player who was making $78,000 a year. Her own agent went on ESPN and said it would be essentially impossible to pay her what she's actually worth, that no contract structure currently in existence could come close to reflecting her real value to this league. One analyst who studies sports economics professionally ran the numbers and found that Clark was responsible for more than a quarter of all economic activity in the entire WNBA. One player, 25% of everything the league generates, with projections suggesting her total impact could cross $1 billion in a single season, not for her team, for the whole league. So when you hear that this same franchise was supposedly in a hurry to send her somewhere else, hold that number in your head. $560 million. We're coming back to it. Here's where the noise actually started. And the more carefully you look at the timeline, the more you realize how little it took to send half the basketball internet into a complete spiral. Last Friday, a longtime television commentator named Jason Whitlock typed out a single sentence and hit send. The Indiana Fever are planning to ship Caitlin Clark to the Los Angeles Sparks. He even offered a prediction for who'd coach her once she got out there. That was it. No named source. No reporter backing it up. No insider information attached to it. Just a man with a platform who wanted to say something loud enough to get noticed. That sentence got 2 million views in roughly 48 hours. 2 million people saw that post, reacted to it, shared it, argued about it, built entire conversations on top of it. And the entire time, the foundation underneath all of it was just a television voice and an opinion he decided to present as information. The second piece came the same afternoon. A retired NBA player jumped in and announced he was hearing from a reliable source that the Fever didn't want Caitlin Clark anymore. He told the LA Sparks to go get her. He said it with exactly the kind of energy that suggests something real is behind it. Same urgency, same confidence, same total absence of anything resembling a verifiable source. And then it spread. Because once two voices with platforms say the same thing inside the same 24-hour window, the algorithm treats it like confirmation. People who hadn't even seen Whitlock's original post were now seeing it repackaged, reshared, reacted to, layered on top of. The Clark Wants Out story had a full life of its own before anyone stopped to ask where it actually came from. Here's the part that should make you stop for a second. When actual reporters, the people whose job is literally to make calls and verify things, traced the Clark Wants Out narrative back to its origin point, they found an AI-generated video. No reporter, no source inside the building, no one with any connection to the Fever or to Clark's representatives. A computer program and a thumbnail. That was the engine underneath the entire story. The trade rumor that convinced a significant portion of the country that Indiana was about to make the single dumbest decision in modern sports history. The story that got 2 million views in 2 days was built on a tweet with no source and a video made by a robot. That's not journalism. That's not even gossip with legs. That's noise that got amplified by people who should have known better, dressed up as insider information, and handed to millions of people who had no reason not to believe it. Meanwhile, the people who were actually plugged into this league were looking at the whole thing and shaking their heads. One respected insider saw Whitlock's post and responded with a single line, saying the man was trying to break news for the first time in his life, and it should age well. A reporter who covers the business side of the WNBA said he would be genuinely stunned if Indiana moved her. Not skeptical, not cautious, stunned. Because when you understand what Clark means to that franchise on a purely financial level, the trade conversation doesn't just seem unlikely, it seems like something no rational front office would ever seriously consider. And when the reporters who actually have relationships inside that building picked up the phone and started asking questions, the answer was immediate and completely unambiguous. There is no trade. There never was. Nobody inside that organization was shopping her. Nobody was fielding calls. Nobody was even having that conversation. The whole thing was fiction. Loud, viral, 2 million view fiction. But fiction. The contrast here is worth pausing on. On one side, you had two television voices who said something explosive, generated enormous engagement, and faced essentially zero accountability for the fact that none of it was true. On the other side, you had reporters who did the actual work, made the actual calls, got the actual answers, and their corrections got a fraction of the attention the original rumor did. That's not a new problem in sports media, but it doesn't make it any less corrosive. Now let's talk about what Caitlin Clark is actually worth to this franchise. Not in vague terms. In specific, documented, verifiable numbers that make the trade rumor collapse the second you actually look at them. Before Clark, the Fever were playing in front of 4,000 people a night. After Clark, they were selling out a 17,000-seat arena, home game after home game. And here's the detail that tends to stop people mid-sentence when they hear it. Last season, the Indiana Fever were drawing more fans to Gainbridge Fieldhouse than the Indiana Pacers. The women's basketball franchise that nobody outside Indianapolis thought about 2 years ago was outpacing the NBA team in the same city on attendance. This season, the league scheduled 41 of the Fever's 44 games on national television. 41. That's more national TV games than the Lakers, more than the Celtics, more than the Warriors. For a women's basketball team in Indianapolis, the league didn't do that because they love Indiana. They did it because every network that airs one of these games knows that Clark drives viewership in a way that almost nothing else in professional basketball does right now. There's an understanding that used to exist in professional basketball, an unspoken rule about what you do when a generational player lands in your city. When Boston got Larry Bird, nobody spent years debating whether he'd be better somewhere else. When the Lakers got Magic Johnson, nobody was floating scenarios to move him to a bigger market. When those cities got handed a once-in-a-generation talent, they circled the wagons. They built around that player. They made it clear this person was theirs. Because once-in-a-generation players don't come around on a schedule. You don't get to decide you made a mistake and find another one. When you have one, the job is to hold on. The job is to build. The job is to make sure every single day that player has every reason to stay. And the Indiana Fever have one of those players. Not just once in a generation for the WNBA. Once in a generation for professional basketball, full stop. Every piece of data attached to this situation points to the same conclusion. What Indianapolis has right now is extraordinary. And the correct response to extraordinary is to protect it. While all of this was swirling, while the rumor was spreading, while the television voices were confidently predicting her next destination, Caitlin Clark was asked about it directly. A reporter put the question to her at a podium. What do you make of all this noise? What's your response to the trade talk? She did not issue a statement through a publicist. She did not release a carefully worded social media post. She did not call a press conference or go on a friendly podcast to clear the air. She stood at a microphone and said what she had to say in approximately 8 seconds. She said she didn't really know why anyone was still on this. She said the opinions don't matter. And then the line that traveled the furthest, the one that got picked up and shared and quoted back everywhere. She said she hoped it would make a lot of people just be quiet. And then the line that summarized everything. The sky is not falling. 8 seconds. A shrug. And a line that landed harder than most prepared statements ever do, because she meant it and it showed. She wasn't performing unbothered. She was actually unbothered. There's a difference. and it comes through on camera whether you want it to or not. The people trying to create chaos around her gave her a week's worth of material, and she responded with 8 seconds and a shrug. And then she went and backed it up in the most emphatic way available to her. 3 days after she told everybody the sky wasn't falling, the Indiana Fever were in Washington, tied in a game that felt like it was slipping away. The season was sitting at 5 wins and 5 losses. Not a crisis, but not a statement either. A record that gave every critic just enough to work with. And with the clock bleeding down to nothing, the ball came loose. Caitlin Clark drifted way out past the three-point line, past the range where most players would even think about pulling up, out to a distance where you're essentially asking the ball to make a decision on your behalf. 31 feet from the basket. 1.2 seconds on the clock. Down 1. The entire week of noise hanging in the air. She let it go, and it went through clean. 78-76. Indiana wins. 19 points for Clark. The answer delivered in the most direct possible terms. Not through a microphone. Not through a statement. Not through an agent's carefully chosen words. Through a basketball, leaving her hand from the parking lot and finding the bottom of the net before the buzzer sounded. And here's the scheduling detail that you genuinely could not write any better if you tried. Those Los Angeles Sparks, the team Whitlock confidently declared she'd be playing for, the franchise the rumors said she was desperate to join. Indiana plays them at the end of this month. She will suit up in a Fever jersey, walk onto that court, and face the team she was supposedly already packing her bags for. In the uniform the rumor said she'd already left behind. You cannot write a better ending to this story than the one the schedule accidentally provided. The rumor got 2 million views. The shot got the win. One of those two things actually happened. Here's what stays with me after all of this. The voices that spent a week trying to run her out of Indiana. Do they say a single word about that shot in Washington? Do they acknowledge what they got wrong? Or does the next loud take simply replace the last one, and nobody is ever held to account for the noise they made? Because that's the dynamic that makes this frustrating beyond just the specifics of one player and one franchise. It's a window into how sports narratives get built and destroyed in real time, with no accountability on the back end for the people who built them wrong. She's still in Indianapolis. The franchise is worth $560 million. She hit a buzzer beater from 31 feet and shrugged. And the sky, just like she said, is still exactly where it was.